It's been a divisive symbol for many, for slavery and injustice. And so even though some people really believe it as a flag of heritage, that flag will no longer fly publicly over the state capitol or even next to the monument. The Confederate flag came down swiftly, with a jubilant crowd cheering. And small pockets of protesters all coming out to witness the end of an era.
Courtney, you've been looking at some of the reactions that have been coming in from some of the world leaders and also some of the potential presidential frontrunners.
Well, yes, and President Obama, I think the most succinct thing he said was, this is the best plan we've got to save the planet. Now, a lot of other leaders are joining in, like the UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, who says this has been the most difficult and complex negotiation he has ever been involved in. Antonio, the 22 emails weren't marked classified at the time, but the information in them is considered top secret now.
I can confirm that as part of this monthly FOIA production of former Secretary Clinton's emails, the State Department will be denying in full 7 email chains.
But Hillary Clinton's campaign spokesman said he disagrees with the categorization and said they should be released. The decision comes 3 days before the Iowa caucuses, with Clinton and Democratic rival Bernie Sanders in a tight race. The Republican candidates have been relentlessly critical over Clinton's use of her private server during her tenure as Secretary of State, including at last night's Republican debate. The first thing that President Obama is going to have to address is the fear of terrorism. It's gripping parts of America. In fact, polls are showing that Americans think that terrorism is a greater threat to the nation. That's the highest level of people saying that since the week after 9/11. According to a Pew poll, 18% of Americans polled said that it's the greatest threat in the nation now. That's up from 1% last year. So talking about the troops, he promised to get them out, but nearly 10,000 remain in Afghanistan. Right before Christmas, 6 Air Force members were killed. 1 Special Forces member was killed so far this year. So you're still seeing casualties in Afghanistan. You're also seeing resurgence of the Taliban. In Iraq, nearly 3,000 troops are on the ground assisting Iraqi forces, and there hasn't been a lot of successes against ISIL. They're still in control of the second largest city in Iraq.
Courtney, finally, some good news for New Yorkers about the travel ban?
Well, Randall, the travel ban, according to Mayor de Blasio, will be lifted at 7 a.m. this morning. And as you can see, those hurricane gale force winds have subsided. This was North Korea's 4th nuclear test since its withdrawal from the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty nearly 13 years ago. Within a month of dropping out of the treaty, North Korea reactivated its nuclear power facilities. And just 2 months after that, it announced it had nuclear weapons.
Courtney Kealy, who was outside the Palace Hotel where some of those talks are taking place. And Courtney, this meeting bringing together allies and enemies at the same table, Russia, the U.S., Iran, Saudi Arabia, all of them differ on how to end the war. So what's the end game?
Del, the end game is still far away. This is the beginning of a long diplomacy. Now, the springboard was the 2 Vienna talks that all of these foreign ministers did attend. 17 countries represented here today, including the EU, the UN, and the Arab League. Like you said, Saudi Arabia, Iran, Russia, and the U.S. all at the table. Now, Russia has been playing a key game here. They have always maintained that Assad isn't going to go, that wasn't the first part of the deal. And it looks like the U.S. is softening on that stance. What they're all trying to come to agreement today is, first, a nationwide ceasefire in Syria. Second, what it would look like, who would be part of it, and who wouldn't be part of it, Del.
Courtney, you have reported from war zones in Iraq and Afghanistan, and I know it's a difficult day because you've been connecting with people who knew Anya. Just what are they saying? What are you feeling? What's your reaction?
I put notes down today because I knew how emotional this would be. Her obituary in AP today said she had a body of work that won awards and broke hearts, and countless best friends of mine who battle buddies from war zones today are just speaking of the heartbreak about the loss of her.